We begin our journey by traveling back in time after the events of our Pikmin 2 Pacifist challenge in order to rectify our past sins. We land in the impact site, awaken the red onion, and then before I can even breathe, discover that we've already in fact reached the most difficult roadblock in the entire challenge. In order to push this block, we need at least 10 Pikmin. There's a freestanding 1 pellet on this ledge and a 5 pellet over in this corner, but even if we could get both of them back, we'd still only have 8 Pikmin total. If we can just get past the box, there are more freestanding pellets, but no matter how you slice it, completing day 1 of this challenge seems to require a minimum of 1 kill. That is, unless you break the game. And those of you who've seen my last video will know that I am incredibly stubborn, and will sometimes spend literal hours trying to perform ridiculous strats just to preserve a single kill. And that's exactly what I was about to do once again. Much like the start of Pikmin 2, if we can cause a Pikmin extinction on day 1, it will allow us to save some enemy lives. After day 1, we can end days as many times as we need and continue to farm pellets that are freestanding rather than taking out pellet posies, which would eventually allow for completing the intro and acquiring the engine without a single kill. This was easier said than done though. Since there's no enemies here on day 1, our only method of extinction is by using the water in the upper area. The easiest method of getting there is by walking up this small lip out of bounds, breaking the gate, and then guiding the Pikmin to the water from there. Unfortunately, this method wouldn't work for this challenge, since that method requires first pushing the box. Another method, described by the community as TAS only, requires using a freestanding pellet to clip out of bounds onto this ledge as it's moving. The problem with this trick though is it's incredibly precise, and failing it requires resetting the entire game again to try again once the pellet is moved, which is incredibly tedious. The night before I began this challenge, I played around with it using save states, which let me attempt it dozens of times in a row without having to keep rewatching the opening cutscene, and after about 15 minutes I actually got onto the ledge. Unfortunately, I didn't have the same luck once I began recording. Whether it was the nerves from streaming holding me back, or having gotten incredibly lucky the night before, it simply wasn't happening. And after over an hour of attempts, I finally decided to call it, and I loaded up my save state from the night before right after I got on the ledge. And as sad as I was that I couldn't get it on stream and collect footage from my successful attempt, I was consoled by the fact that I did technically pull it off once, which counts for something in my book. As soon as I was on the ledge, I called the Pikmin back, then slowly walked down this railing to a spot where I could pick him up. I then navigated out of bounds all the way around, up this hill, and down onto the beach near the water, where I at last managed to drown the little guy and cause myself a day 1 Pikmin extinction. I am never doing that again. The ship then magically takes off without an engine, and Olimar is surprised to see that the onion lifts off with him, seeing as he murdered the last of their kind in cold blood for the sake of 1 pellet posy. On day 2, the onion gives us 1 new red Pikmin, and I use it to collect the 2 new freestanding pellets on these ledges. I also hit this flint beetle a couple times without killing it, giving us another red pellet, which brings our numbers up to 5. I do the same thing on day 3 to get up to 9 Pikmin, and on day 4 we finally have enough to push the 10 barrier, locking us inside the base. Before grabbing the engine, I get a few more 1 pellets from other flint beetles, and 3 10 pellets up on this ledge by building this twig bridge. And now that we're past day 1, Olimar has the ability to lie down using the D-pad. I can abuse this with the help of this blue 1 pellet in order to clip much easier than the first time, allowing me to get over to the white gate, break it down, and then get another red 20 pellet, granting me a total of 56 reds going into the Forest of Hope, which is good because I am already 3 days behind schedule for getting all the parts. Landing in the Forest of Hope, I shatter the first gate twice as fast as usual with all the Pikmin that I have, but I'm distraught to find out that many of the freestanding pellets that usually appear here are gone, since I wasted so many days getting here in the first place. There's also a lot more large bulb orbs than usual, which is always a fun time, especially when you can't hurt them and have no bitter sprays. I grab my measly 1 yellow, who I put to work immediately, since I have no way of bolstering his numbers right now without a kill. I bring him back and forth over and over, 1 bomb rock at a time, and painstakingly bring down these 2 gates. From here, I bring my respectably sized red squad to push this box with a few well-placed throws, and dive headfirst into the Snagrid hunting grounds. And sadly, this is where I'm going to have to get our first kill of the run, since our friend here swallowed a part, and there's really no way around it. And then this is where the fun began. I grabbed all the loot and just prayed that most of it would get back, distracting as many bulborbs as I could along the way, but we lost a ton of good soldiers. I only realized halfway along the route that I could have given some of these pellets to the yellows instead, so I foolishly tried to backtrack one of them to the onion and almost lost a lot more Pikmin in the process. But it did somehow work out, so at least I had 3 yellows to work with now instead of 1. And the other pellets got me back about as many reds as I lost, so it kind of worked out. On day 6, I debated whether it would be worth going back to the impact site for a day, which would allow me to bolster my yellow numbers significantly with freestanding pellets. And as tempting as it was, I ended up deciding that it wasn't worth an entire day, since there weren't nearly as many walls that needed bombing in the Forest of Hope as some of the other areas. I start by throwing my Pikmin onto this ledge, walking through the water, and sneaking around this bulborb to get the shock absorber. However, apparently Olimar does not taste as good as Pikmin because the bulborb ignored my distraction and ate 6 of them instead. Next, I got my reds working on this black gate while I scrounged up some bomb rocks, and then set one Pikmin up onto this ledge to distract the mother bulborb while I collect the Nova Blaster, with only minimal casualties on the way back. But that's okay, because Pikmin lives don't matter. Next, I get the Eternal Fuel Dynamo and carefully use my yellow squad to take down the last bomb gate without disturbing the sheer grubs. From there, I managed to sneak the Extraordinary Bolt back using some ollie baiting to keep the bulborbs at bay. With dusk approaching rapidly, I set up another Pikmin out of bounds to distract a large bulborb so that I can quickly snag my whimsical radar, which puts me back ahead of the game at 7 parts and only 6 days so far. On day 7, we land in the Forest Navel. I set up my measly squad of only 41 Pikmin left on a few bridges and gates, and proceed to awaken the blue onion. And then I cry, because I didn't realize there were literally 0 freestanding pellets here, meaning that I have only 1 blue to work with for now. My sadness turns to anger at the game, and I take out my rage on this breadbug who just happens to be walking by. This second kill is justified, however, since he had the audacity to swallow my space float. But unfortunately, he doesn't drop any pellets, and the corpse is too heavy to give to the blues, so I'm still handcuffed there. Even without the blues though, I try to do as much as I can in this area by collecting this giant spring and giant gear whose names I am too lazy to remember. 3 parts is not bad for a day where I have less than half the Pikmin I usually would and my hands are tied. Riding my spurt of confidence, I take my yellows to blow up some more gates, feeling completely invincible and knowing that nothing could possibly go wrong now. That's all my yellow Pikmin. With my yellows extinct and blues on the brink, and only 38 reds to my name, it became obvious where our next destination would be. I return to the impact site and begin farming these flint beetles, which really keep giving me only red pellets now that I'm trying to race everything but. My bloodthirsty Pikmin also continuously keep going rogue every time I try to do literally anything by attacking the pellet posies whenever my back is turned, forcing me to reset several times, which made this normally peaceful and easy area one of the most stressful to maneuver around. Eventually though, I managed to get enough of each Pikmin to get their respective 10 pellets from this ledge, and that in turn boosts their numbers even higher to where I can grab these 20 pellets as well, and effectively tripling our overall numbers in a single day without any kills. Right before sunset, I get our 3rd required kill by bursting this clam, and with less than a second to spare, the positron generator is sucked back into the ship. With renewed confidence and greater numbers, it was time to return to the Forge of Hope for the last 2 parts. I start by building this far bridge to the Sagittarius, only to realize that I have another challenge ahead of me. The second bridge I need to build next to the land is guarded by sheer grubs who will not only eat the bridge as I'm building it, but there's a few males who will try and kill my Pikmin as well. I tried to perform a glitch called nudging in order to knock the part off into the water so my blues could take it back without using the bridge. This glitch requires you to run into a part and lie down with Olimar just at the right moment, causing it to move very slightly. And while I did manage to move it somewhat, I somehow managed to get it stuck on some tiny, barely noticeable slope that I couldn't seem to get it out of. I give up on this part for the time being with a quarter of the day left and head over to the arena, where I sneak the cockpit past while ollie baiting the armored cannon beetle. So at least this day wasn't a complete waste. On day 10, I tried nudging some more, but it simply wasn't working, so I had to come up with another plan. I tried going straight for the bridge and building it while taking losses, but not only did I lose a ton of Pikmin, but the Pikmin also attacked and killed the shear grubs as soon as their task was done. I reset, and on my second attempt I tried a different strategy. Even though the female shear grubs were content to mostly ignore me, the male ones were out for my blood. So I tried luring them away as far as I could. I had assumed that once I left them, they'd simply return to their original spawn like most enemies would, but they instead decided to burrow underground right where they were, which was pretty far from the bridge, which really surprised me. With them out of the way, I was able to safely build the bridge faster than the 3 females could eat it, and I called the Pikmin off just in time to prevent any unnecessary bloodshed. And with the Sagittarius returned, the Forest of Hope was complete. Heading back to the Forest Navel, I grab my first Ionium Jet, and then bring my yellows over to finish these gates that my first batch sacrificed their lives for. Next, I call out the Reg to fight the Puffstool for our 4th required kill of the run, and somehow managed to get the part and the corpse back with only 2 deaths, in spite of all the Wollywogs and shear grubs that were chasing me. I then take my Reds back down to fight Beatty and remember too late that he's actually a lot tougher in this game than in Pikmin 2, as he manages to single-handedly take out 19 of my Pikmin. Ouch. And for those of you who are saying I should have used yellows, I still only had 5, so that wasn't going to be an option. We get this candle back to base, and before the day ends, I move the anti-dioxin filter out of the water so my Reds can grab it on my next visit. I ended my first recording session here because I have been playing for quite some time, and in between streams I spend 2 days farming Pikmin in the impact site for the late game. Heading back to the Forest Navel on day 14, I bring down this gate and build the bridge over the giant void. While the Pikmin are working on that, I go fishing for the analog computer and leave it near the shore so that the Reds can get it later. At the end of the bridge, I ride the geyser up and use my yellows to get the Libra, praying that it gets down just fine, because there's actually a glitch here where sometimes it will just fall off the cliff and soft lock you from completing the game. I get my Reds to bring both parts past the geysers, and then collect the anti-dioxin filter from the blowhogs, which finishes off every part in the Forest Navel. At last, it was time to tackle the final major area, and this turned out to be quite the struggle. I started by maneuvering my blues up onto this ledge to grab the repair-type bolt, and then the fun begins. I try to lure these shearwags away from the bridge like I did with the shear grubs in the Forest of Hope. Unfortunately, they are either incredibly stupid or they just have a death wish, because they keep sliding into the water, half drowning, flying out, and then falling in again.
And now you're gonna go drown yourself on this side. He's just flying back and forth between the 2 sets of water and like constantly drowning himself. That's amazing. Come here, you fool.
After a few resets though, I finally managed to get them all to follow me, so I ollie bait them very far away and let them burrow somewhere where I won't be bothered. This lets me open up the path to Olimar's massage machine, which we all know is a crucial piece of the dolphin and vital to Olimar's survival, and definitely worth risking Pikmin lives over. I then head out to sea to fight this puffy blowhog and get our 6th required kill of the run, and the Pikmin narrowly managed to speed the part back out of the jaws of these water dumples. With half a day left, I take advantage of the bombs over here, knowing that the shearwigs will probably eat the bridge first thing the next day, and get started on some of these walls. I pull the UV lamp off this ledge and then sneak past some of the bull bears on the other side of the map for the next set of bombs, when this snitch bug decides to come in out of nowhere. Fortunately, I was smart enough to end the day as soon as that happened, because if the snitch bug were to throw down a Pikmin holding a bomb, the explosion would kill it, and I'd be forced to reset the entire day. On day 16, I lament the fact that I didn't come to the distant spring earlier. Now that enough time has passed, several dwarf spotty bull bears are here to join the adults, just to make my life miserable. My worst fears also come true once again, as the snitch bug simply won't allow me to bomb the gates I need without interfering, leading to even more resets. At last, I successfully managed to avoid the snitch bugs long enough to blow up everything I need to, and decide that I won't be using any more bombs from here on in, as the risk is just too great. With that all out of the way, my next target is the Gluendrive. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I'm pronouncing it, and now that I'm a master at it, I easily easily ollie-bait the shearwigs out of the way so I can build both of the bridges. I managed to snag it without much issue and only minor casualties to the ever-annoying ball bears along the way. From there, I ollie-bait the wallywogs out of the way so I can break this gate and gather both the Zychronium rotor and the pilot seat before the day is up. On day 17, I sneak around to the armored cannon beetle area, attempting to build the bridge and break the gate while these snitch bugs troll me. And at this point, I kind of just accept that they're there and there's nothing I can do about it. Kill number 7 is the cannon beetle itself, however getting the part back was going to prove to be a real challenge. I thought I could make it by loading up the parts with Pikmin and speeding them past like in most other situations, but I was wrong. A bloodbath ensues, which loses me dozens of Pikmin, and some of them get knocked off and end up killing a dwarf bulborb along the way, so I have to reset yet again. On my next attempt, I played around with luring the bulbears, and unfortunately they were not as easy to trick as the shearwigs. So once I got the part from the cannon beetle this time, I left it for a while I brainstormed how to get it all the way to the base. On day 18, I brought out my blues and threw them on the sledge. Then I woke up this ball bear in the hopes that he would clip me out of bounds so I could get to another part much easier. But as it turned out, he had other ideas.
Come here. Are you serious right now? Are you serious right now? What are you doing? How? No! He walked out of bounds! This man...
I was actually surprised in hindsight that he didn't kill more Pikmin. But anyways, on our next attempt, I successfully managed to get the clip, and with my blues out of bounds, we head over to the Kronos reactor, allowing me to skip a very long and tedious puzzle involving yellows. I also leave this part for the time being and snag the second Ionium jet. With 3 parts lined up, I was still brainstorming how to get them past the ball bears, when I suddenly realized I was being an idiot this entire time. If I just used blues to carry them instead of reds, they would take them through the small pond here. And while a few dwarf ones would still be a nuisance, they'd be able to travel on a path that didn't wake any adults. So with all of those back, we now had 29 out of 30 ship parts, which meant I was able to head to the final trial. So on day 19, we did just that. And there's really not much to say about this one because there's only one enemy here and we need to kill him anyway for the final part. So I blow up this gate, build some bridges, cheese the box puzzle with yellows because I feel like it, and head in for the boss, where most of my yellows happily blow themselves up for Olimar's piggy bank, because we all know which is more valuable.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
And with that, we have acquired all 30 ship parts with only 8 enemy kills. And yes, I know that 5 of the parts are not technically required to get the normal ending, which means I could have technically finished the game with 6 kills, but like with my Pikmin 2 challenge, I wanted to see how many kills it took to 100% the game. Thank you all so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you want to see more challenge runs like this, please let me know your ideas in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss when those videos drop. And if you haven't seen my first Pacifist challenge of Pikmin 2, be sure to check that out, because it was a lot more challenging this one and there's a lot of fun stuff in that video. And if you want to see my challenges live, you can head over to my Twitch channel, where I'll probably be doing Pikmin 3 and 4 Pacifist runs at some point in the near future. And with that said, thank you all once again, and I'll see you on the next one.